right, everyone. So welcome to another edition of our add-on office hours. My name is Matthew, and then we have Justin, Keith, and other members of our team joining us today. And for this week's office hours, we just want to start off with some important notes as we especially have some new faces here. We're going to try to keep this to be only about our Quickbase add-ons, but it could be about any one of the Quickbase add-ons, whatever you may have a question on. Please try your best to raise your hand with the Zoom reactions prior to asking a question, just so we can keep it orderly and make sure we hit everyone's questions. And let's try to keep this to 5 to 7 to potentially a little bit longer if we have a good question. And as a reminder, all sessions are made available on YouTube, and we'll send you a link to our help site to go over that. So before I get started on this week's topic, I do want to give some time for open forum. Does anyone have any pressing questions that they would love to get answered today? We'd love to take questions first, as this is your guys' time. If not, we will be going into our spotlight topic this week. So the floor is yours, clients, whatever you'd like. Oh, I see one hand. All right. We got a clap and a hand raise. All right. Hi, Claire.
I clicked the wrong hand. I usually use Teams, evidently. So I did have a question. I've been using the EFP merger the EFP tool and the PDF merger, and I've been using them together quite a lot. And rather unfortunately, our files are quite large and they're exceeding the Quickbase limitation of 75 megabytes. So the challenge I'm facing now is that I'm trying to merge some documents that are in Quickbase with some documents that are stored in Dropbox, and to save the final merged product into Dropbox also. So I've been emailing back and forth with someone from your team on how to do this. Do you have any examples where this is done, and maybe some more like rigorous documentation on what the parameters should look like for a merge of this nature?
So one thing I know for sure, Claire, is we did make an enhancement for this add-on for that. So I don't believe we have the documentation just yet to have, I guess, written out clearly. I know you've spoken to Manal most recently, who Manal is actually on this call as well. And I know that it is kind of a complex process you are running. So with that said, is there something specifically that's giving you trouble right now, or just as a whole?
I would say it's probably something specific. I don't know what it is though. It's just getting the parameters exactly right so that the correct files are being pulled in and the output file is being stored in the correct place. It's really just a syntax error, I think, at this point.
Right. So I think what we would have to do is really review that string, the arguments for the PDF merger, and see specifically, where in Dropbox we're trying to place it, where in Dropbox we're getting the information from, as well as, just the information from Quickbase, the files that are generated with EFP. I don't know if we can go through the exact process right now. I think that might take a little bit longer than the allotted time.
Hey, Matt, I think Manal might want to jump in here.
Yeah, Claire, I think for both the setup packages, right, you had ICF and GLO, right? I think I tested both of them while you sent me the list of the parameters. And I think that it is working. Have you checked the test record that you sent me recently?
I checked after the last email I received from you, and hi, nice to meet you virtually in a different form.
Did you check it in the Dropbox? Because the packages when I ran it last, I did not see any error once I corrected an issue with the space in the Dropbox folder for both packages. I mean, you can run it again and let me know. But I think that was last time. I think you were using the same field to save the setup package name. So you might have overridden because both this 1682 or something field ID, I exactly don't remember, but last time I saw that both of them are working. So you please check your Dropbox folder and see if the setup packages are there. If not, then you can send us an email with the parameters and we'll take a look at it.
Yeah, I'll do that. Thank you.
And we do have our demo application for PDF merger. We have one tab showing the list of the parameters for Dropbox to get the file stored in Dropbox.
Right.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
for getting a file stored in Dropbox, but
right.
not for pulling the file from Dropbox.
I think we
Right.
have it. Okay, I'll check, double check, and I'll send you a link to the record.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Just as a, I guess, clarity, I'll put this in the chat. I think this is the page Manal was alluding to. Not positive if that's completely set up, but okay. So Claire, we'll try to circle back with you maybe sometime towards the end of the call after you run another test. Now, anyone else have questions regarding Quickbase add-ons? Remember, this is open forum, so if you have any question, big or small, I think now would be the time.
Add-on that you guys currently offer?
What was that? I don't know if I heard the first part.
So is it just clear limited to add-ons that you guys currently offer? I guess the reason I jumped on the call was I've got an issue I need to try to solve, and didn't know if you guys would have an add-on already or a capacity.
So I think you might have been breaking up a little bit in the beginning of your comment. So I heard add-ons that you offer.
And Jeff, you can ask us you can ask us your specific question. If we do have an add-on, we'll certainly direct you in the right spot. If not, we'll let you know that whether we do or not.
Perfect. We've built the solution and have a couple customers on it, and 2 or 3 different places within our application, we need the ability to copy and paste a large number of records, say 100. Now Quickbase limits that to 4. Got that in the grid edit, they've got 4 records that you can paste into. I know we can jump over to the import from CSV, import from clipboard. Problem there is it doesn't keep the relationship to the parent. So I didn't know if you guys had any type of like HTML pop-out screen that you could copy and paste into the function similar to a grid edit, just gave you more capacity than just the 4 rows. Makes sense.
We don't. The closest thing we have to that is our easy file importer. So it's more advanced than the standard import from CSV, because you can pre-configure your field mappings ahead of time so that you can just basically click on a file attachment field, hit save. Once you upload that file that has the new records, the 100 records or so, it will automatically import them into the table that you have it mapped to. So it's like you don't have to go back into the table, import, select your file, or choose that you want to upload from a file, then choose your file, and then map your fields, and then hit go. It's a little bit more streamlined from that, and it does have the ability to search and connect records based on some parameters that you have inside of, based on some fields you have in the document itself. But that's the closest we have to it. We don't have, let's say, an HTML pop-up page that's going to do what you're looking for, but our easy file importer might be an option for you.
Interesting. Yeah, I'd love to some more information on that. I think if it could keep essentially the relationship with the parent, it can pick a file and import it. That might be what we're looking for.
Right, and you can once you create that file, we fire it based on the upload of the file into a file attachment field, so you don't have to then click anything additional. So you would just edit your record that you're on, you choose your file, hit save, and it would fire the easy file importer. And we can certainly you know, we can go over your use case in greater detail with you offline so that we really solve the problem, or we'll let you know whether we can't. But yeah, Justin just put the link to our easy file importer, so you can click on that, find out more information, as well as going to our demo app. We actually allow you to, we have a sample Excel file that you can, let's say, download and re-upload just to see how it works. But we allow you to map by column names. We allow you to map by column labels. So it's pretty flexible with that in that manner. Todd, did you have anything to add to that? I know Todd's pretty versed in our easy file importer.
No, I mean, pretty much like you said, we should be able to line that data up. The nice thing is it's repeatable. So, you know, this thing can be used over and over again. There's different clever things we might be able to do too, you know, within the app. I guess we'll probably have to take it offline and kind of show Jeff the different options for that. But yeah, but I mean, it sounds like that would help. If nothing else, that can definitely do it. So, you know, that's probably as close as we have to his use case that he's talking about. So.
Okay. All right, Jeff, we'll connect with you offline. Matt will get you contact information, and we'll set up a quick call and we'll review it together.
Yep.
Cool.
Good. All right, Julie, I've been waiting patiently.
That's okay, I multitask. So I'm new. I'm still on a trial on Exact Forms. Do you guys have like a quick start guide? I mean, I've been kind of reading through all of the little commands, but I'm not quite sure how to use them. You know, what the syntax is within the rich text field that gets created. Do you have a guide to that? Like, you gave me a couple of examples, like when I'm printing asset tags for golf carts, I don't really want to save that. But if I'm doing an invoice for golf cart maintenance, then yes, by all means, I would love to save a copy of that when it's generated. So you said it's an FA, but I went and looked and I couldn't find an FA command in there to modify. Do I have to add that command?
Nope. So it was FAID. Sorry, I might have left
Okay, you just said FA. I saw an FAID and I was like, well, maybe that's the one he means.
might have been my bad. So basically on our help site, I think would be your best place to go to get started.
Yeah, I've been on your help site and I've kind of like read through some of the things, but like some use cases would be awesome if you have something like that.
Yeah, our demo application has a bunch of use cases.
Okay. How do I get to your demo application?
Justin's going to put a link in there for you.
Okay, cool.
But what I'll do is I'll quickly just go in here and just show you.
Oh, can I find this in the Explore sample apps?
Yes.
Okay.
And
awesome.
when you do,
that was the key thing I needed.
And when you're in the demo app, if you click demo here, we kind of give you a lot of different use cases across the tabs.
Perfect.
Here.
This is exactly what I needed. I appreciate that.
And we actually even show you a sample of what the code looks like behind the button.
Awesome. Yes, I'm familiar with the code behind the button, but I'm not a coder. I like to call myself a copifier. So I find something, I copy it, and I modify it.
Well, great. So yeah, so this is certainly a great resource for you to look through and see how some of the different functionality that's available through Exact Forms Plus as well.
I did have one that I didn't see in your help files, but so when I'm building the Word document, like I set a page size, like, so we have a label that's 2 by 3. I have a badge that's going to be, 3 by 2. And like one I was just working on yesterday, it's basically a 4 by 6 label. So I set that page size in my Word document that I upload as my template, but then it just made it 8 by 10.
Well, I mean, I have a sample here in our demo app that.
Oh, custom 4 by 6 label, perfect.
Yeah, and like this is the page size. So this will come out in this size. It's not going to come out in 8x10. So you just got to make sure that it definitely held the page size that you configured inside of your Word document.
Yeah. Well, I don't. Okay. Well, I'll try to figure out what I'm doing wrong, but you know, I basically did the same thing. So then when I generated it and it created it in a PDF, when I went to print the PDF, it was 8.5 by 11.
Well,
Should I keep it as a Word document? Because I know you can choose.
Yeah,
whether you
can
want
choose
it.
either or. I mean, I would definitely. It's always good to, if you're having some wonky things happening in PDF, it's always good to start with a Word doc. Create the Word doc first. It's always good troubleshooting. So change it to Word doc,
Okay.
and then see what happens there.
Okay.
If that
Great.
looks good, then create the PDF. But because sometimes there's some things that happen in PDF conversion, because we always create a Word doc first, and then we convert the Word doc to PDF. That's how Exact Forms Plus works. So regardless of whether, if you say I want a PDF, we still create a Word doc, but we convert it to PDF. So sometimes
Like in the background.
Exactly.
Okay. Okay.
But it should hold the page size. But when you print it, you might have to choose a different option for the paper size. Like, so when you hit File Print in your PDF, check to see what paper size you have set as the default when you're doing the file print.
Okay. Okay.
The other thing, Julie, you mentioned just where would you find the demos? Just on our website homepage, if you scroll down a little bit, there's the master demo app. You can see then the demos for each and every add-on, not just.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
So that will kind of a quick guide to all of them. So if you had any questions, you can go there.
This is a link in your homepage, or am I searching for this in sample apps in Quickbase?
In ours, you wouldn't find it in sample apps in Quickbase. Keeps bringing it to you right now.
If you go down to our homepage and you scroll right down here.
Oh, there you go. Okay, perfect.
Right there.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yep.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for the question. All right, Mike, you've been patiently waiting now.
How's it going? I actually got in a little late, so thank you. Thanks for doing these office hours. I don't know if anyone there has ever heard my name, but I'm Mike Tamouche. This is almost kind of piggybacking a little bit off of what Julie was talking about. This is about Exact Forms Plus and the templates, the Word docs. I'm just wondering, is the basic, two questions, I guess, is the basic rule of thumb with how those work is for text fields, it will always take the font and size of your Word doc template. And for rich text fields, it will take whatever is in the rich text. Is that how the general
yes
with EFP?
Yes, whenever you're using a rich text field, which ends up an HTML field. It's really HTML tags behind the scenes. So we force you, or we allow you to control the font size and font family and all of that stuff within the HTML itself. So we don't want to override that. So that's why we say, all right, well, if you're going to use a rich text field, you control it. If you're not using a rich text field, then, if you come in your document template and you make this 28 and you decide to change it to, calibri, that's what we're going to use.
And that's the same. And so on that kind of same vein, I have trouble, and I don't know if I'm doing something wrong or if this is expected behavior. If I just have a normal text field like you have up there in the date or the estimate number, the 14, field 14 and 3 and 22 up there. If I change font and everything, it in fact changes font and size and all that. If I change alignment, I don't feel like it changes alignment. Am I doing something wrong, or is that expected? Like if I do center align or right align, does it follow alignments, or
it should? Like so if I align 14 to the left, it should keep that alignment.
Okay. I can't remember if I thought that wasn't happening for me, but before let me check.
Well, in one of my demos, what I'll do is I'll keep this because I have this template here.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
I'll save that to see that does work.
Okay, perfect. I'm sure it does, and maybe I probably just did.
It should. If you're in a table, yes, it should definitely absolutely keep
Gotcha.
And that's one of the things we recommend is when you are using Exact Forms Plus,
Mhm.
it's always good to try to use word tables wherever possible. Like you can see even up in my header here. Behind this, I'm using a table. I'm just hiding borders and so on, so that I still get the look that it's floating, but I get more control over shifting when I use in tables. So it's always a good idea to just use word tables to try to control where things are in the document.
Gotcha. And then do you know, the last question I have is in the subtables, when you're, you have all your columns, you pick the widths of all the columns, 50, 60, 80. You typically want to like make sure all the widths add up to like the full size, right? Is there a conversion of like you're using pixels and pixels to inches? Is this so?
It's about 72 pixels per inch.
So, okay, perfect. Thank you. That'll do.
Mhm.
All right. I didn't know if that was pixels that you guys are using or exactly what number I was typing in. I just, all right, that's all I got. Appreciate this. I'm gonna watch the rest.
Thanks. Awesome. So we had some great questions. Any other takers? You remember, one thing I didn't mention actually is you don't have to come up and speak. If you prefer, you could type out your question in the chat and we would be happy to answer it for those who may be a little bit more introverted.
Like you, right, Matt?
Oh yeah, just like me.
Hey, I've got a just quick question about some of the capabilities on labels. We print tons of labels, and would love to be able to convert to putting barcoding on those labels. Do you have some functionality that can allow us to do that?
Only on one-off labels. If you're trying to do mass label printing, let's say on a Avery label that's 10 by 30, whatever.
Right.
We have a very simple mailing labels process that doesn't really handle images, rich text fields. It's flat text. So we haven't been able to come up with a solution to handle the rich text. I know what you're talking. You want to be able to include images, which really images for in your case is barcode images, like barcodes, whatever. We really, if it's a one label at a time, yes. But if it's this mass labels, we're not there yet. We tried. We just having some issues with handling the HTML side of things when we're doing, because we do the labels a lot differently than just on a regular document.
Right. Okay.
So unfortunately, I don't think I have an answer for you there.
All right. Yeah. Thanks for the answer. Yep.
All right. Well, if you guys think of a question or have a question as the meeting continues to go on, please feel free to either raise your hand or speak right up. But I think based off of everyone else, I think we're ready to go forward with the topic. So Keith, if you're prepared.
Yeah. All right. Well, for those of you who joined us last week, you saw that we had a little bit of an issue, and it was surrounding our beta version of Exact Forms Plus and our beta version of our EFP configurator, and trying to do repeating columns. That's kind of where we blew up. So, and I'm glad it happened, because it does happen. We're not perfect, and we do have some issues here and there. So, but I wanted to kind of go through that again, just so that we see that you're repeating. I wanted to go through repeating values, repeating columns, because I think it's a good piece of functionality. And really, it was derived from an elevator customer that we had, that they manage cars for elevators. So they wanted to produce proposals for their customers. And when they did produce their proposal at the beginning, this is what the output would look like. Whoops, not that one. That's a different proposal. All right, so this is my elevator proposal. So it's basically going to list out all of the cars. So in this record, there's like 12 or so cars, 13 cars. And some of the buildings that they were dealing with had more than 13, 15, 20, 30 cars. So they didn't want it to look like this because it kind of looks a little silly just having one, because the whole meat of the proposal was, hey, we're going to charge you X per elevator, blah, blah, blah. But here are the different car numbers that we're going to manage for you and service for you. So they asked me for a way to kind of satisfy that and maybe use all of this white space. So that's where we came up with repeating columns. So really we want to do is we want to take this and we want to kind of spread it out a little bit here. So that's the value of repeating columns. So if I go into that template, which is my elevated template here, and I have a subtable, so I'm going to go into my configurator, and I'm simply going to go, on my sub columns, I have one field selected, but I really want to repeat it. So if I go to my last formatting options, maybe I want to spread it out 5 columns. So let's do that. Let's close. Now let's go back to that estimate and let's see what it looks like. So there we go. So that was taking care of all of that white space, and I could have had 6 columns, whatever. And what it does is it goes left to right. So that would be number 1, that would be number 2, 3, 4, and so on. Now, the other thing he asked too is, hey, you know what? I don't really want all of this car number. So how can we handle that? Let's get rid of that. So that if you go back into our subtable that we were in for the cars, we can simply get rid of the headers and borders. So now, instead of showing that same proposal with headers, car number, and even the borders, they didn't want the borders, they just wanted to be straight out text. There you go. So that's the value of repeating columns, is that you can take care of this white space if you don't have a lot of columns that you want to kind of show throughout this document in subtables. So I thought it was worth mentioning that. So a couple of the other things I wanted to talk about with subtables is varying subtables in a single document. So what does that mean? So if I want to, if I have a couple of subtables, so I have a bunch of subtables configured here, but I don't want to have a different template because I want to use a different subtable. So I have a record here, and I have a field here called varying subtables. So typically in our template, we use something like this, right? strid equals 1. But instead of doing that, I'm going to use field 46 in this case, because 46 is really varied. I have a variable piece of code in here that says when this checkbox is on, I'm going to edit this record. When that checkbox is clicked, strid 2, otherwise strid 6, and this field ID is field 46. So that's why I put field 46 in here instead of hard coding my strid. So that document template, and actually since Mike asked for the alignment, I'm just going to bring that back down. I'm actually going to make this change and upload this changed template to the template table. Let's just see if that holds true, like Mike asked. I'm going to go back into my templates. I'm going to go to my varying subtables, upload that template. Let's go back to that record. So right now, the first strid we're going to use is 6. So we click this button here, and it's actually going to use template 3. It's also a way to vary the templates. Do the same thing. I'm just going to use the template number 1. Actually, I do want to use template number 3 because that was the one. Yes, I want to use template number 3. So that's another thing you can do with formula fields, is you can control the template that's used. So in this case, instead of having another button to say use template number 3 or template number 1, I have a button that says use template number 3. So when I click this document button, And Mike, if you look, we did left justify, so that
Perfect.
held. So in here, I use this strid. So this was strid number 1, which showed a lot of different line items here. But if I want to use a different subtable, I'm just going to click this, use no header, no border. So now it's going to show it's going to use strid number 2 instead. So now we're going to see a little bit different in this template now. So we're still using template number 3, but we use a different subtable. So that's one way to vary the subtables. Instead of having multiple templates, you can use some formula code in Quickbase and then just reference the field that's referencing the selected subtable.
Hey, Keith,
Mhm.
can you show field 46 right now? Because I think that's the variable field you're using, right?
Yep, this is field 46.
Yeah, so Julie, I think this is what you're asking. So you can use any checkbox field. It's not a special checkbox.
And
It's-
you can use any complex formula in here as well. So you can say if the status of the record is active, use strid number 5. Else, and always have a default. Like in this case, I said, well, if no header, no border is on, use 2. If the use images subtable is on, use 6. Otherwise, use 1.
That's a great, snipping there, right there, because a lot of clients have similar questions to that all the time. So that's a great one.
Mhm. So then one other question we get asked a lot is, I want to be able to combine columns. So instead of just having straight out column 1, column 2, column 3, maybe I want to take column 1 and column 2 and put them together. So what I did was I created a field here called info. So I have network installed as my item, and then I have a description field as well. So instead of having them as 2 separate columns, maybe I want them to be 1 column in a subtable. So I created a simple formula that said, all right, take the item and the description field and put it together into 1 field. So now I'm going to show this field in my subtable as opposed to showing item and then description. So it's simply just using a little bit of HTML, and you can use rich text fields, and you don't have to use rich text fields. You can combine them with just text fields. But in this case, I wanted to show it a little differently. And I just want to go to my related estimate. I believe it would be template number. I'm trying to think what template I created that in. It's probably template number 1. Here. Use template number 1. Okay. Template number 1 has a bunch of subtables in here. This is one of my subtables, but here's my other subtable. So here's, instead of showing, so this is my info column. And what I did was I hid the borders and I hid the column headers, just like I did in our repeat columns, so that I can see I have 1 column that basically shows 2 fields from my subtable. I could have did 3 fields. I could have did 4 fields. I could have combined a whole bunch of different things in here. So just by going into my line items table and creating an info field and adding some HTML in there, you can see that here's my Cisco routers, 5G. Here's my widgets. This is a description. Here's my server, Dell PowerEdge. So that's one way to take a couple of fields and put them together. So instead of them also looking this way, now they look stacked. So record number 1 is here, record number 2 is here, record number 3 is here, so on. So that's just another option for combining columns in a subtable. And I can pull that up. The other thing I wanted to show is how do we actually, if I want to group, because in this one document here, we did group. And I want a subtotal and I want a total. So we're doing that right now. And I wanted to control the subtotal label. So I actually created a field on my items table, again, another variable field. And I called it total label. So that you can see that my total label here is dynamically going to be created. And it's going to say total for something, total for stock. So if I take a look at this field here, it's basically saying total for item status. It's because I'm grouping by item status. So you can see backordered. I want to see a label that said backordered, because sometimes you might have maybe 50 line items. And you don't want to go back up to here and say, hey, what was that group again? I'm looking at the subtotal. So what is it? You can just look simply here. Right here is this is a subtotal for backordered. And how did I do that? So what I did was in this actual configurator itself, on my subtotal fields, I chose my fields as normal. And when I'm totaling fields, I also can specify that I want a subtotal and grand total. But when I go to my sorting and grouping, I chose to sort by item status. But down here, I said, well, I want to include a subtotal label, and I want to include it in column description. And I want to use a variable field for my table, and I chose item status. And also when I was totaling, I did the same thing. I wanted in the description column, I wanted to show the total label field, the value from the total label field. Now I could have just had a static text field. I could have just said total, but I didn't want that. I wanted it to actually say something that was dynamically generated on the records themselves. So that's how you'll see when we go in here and we generate this document. Again, under the description column, we included the label. Under the description column, we also included the total. So that's how you can kind of vary the subtotal labels and the total labels. So one more thing I wanted to kind of address is some additional field types that you'll see inside of the configurator. So open the configurator for this one document template, the one that we've been using, number 1. Okay, actually, you know what? Well, there's one when I go from the document templates table, you can get to the subtable configurations right through here as well. So if I click on this configuration and open this up a bit. Okay. So we default, when you choose a column, we default the text, the type based on the type that's defined inside of Quickbase. So if you want to, one of the things that we get asked a lot is if I have a field that is a decimal field, the default we set is numeric, but if you want decimals to show up, you should choose float or change it to be float. And float really will allow us now to show those decimal points. So a lot of times people say, hey, I have decimals in my records, but how come I don't see the decimals come out in Exact Forms Plus? So an example of that is in this one estimate here, I have my quantity field and I have 545, but then I also have 1.5 and 5.75. Now, I didn't make that save, so I didn't change the data. So it's still as numeric. So you'll see that we didn't really change the columns, but in this subtable, I did make the save, so you can see that the decimals do hold. So if it doesn't have a decimal, it's not going to show anything, but if it does have a decimal, it'll show. So again, use float if you have a numeric field that you define that does include decimals, so that you want those decimals to come out here in Exact Forms Plus. Another option, and one thing that we wanted to show was multi-select text. So I just wanted to show you how Exact Forms Plus handles that. So if I go in, if I do have a multi-choice field, I believe in here, in my items, you know what, let's see which items have. Just want to see which items I did do that for. Okay, in this case, in this estimate right here, I have 3 choices for size, and it's a multi-select text field. So I'm not sure if I have it in the config. If not, I'll add it to a config. I think I'm going to have to add it to a config, which is fine. Right, because when I generate I don't have that column in here, but let's do that. So let's go into my subtables. Let's go into strad1, and let's add the multi-select text field. So I'm going to go into my subtotal fields. I'm going to choose my where is it? Sizes. Sizes is my field. Now it's still defined as a text field, which is fine. But when Exact Forms Plus sees this, it'll treat it as a text field unless you change it to multi-select. Okay, so that's one thing you got to do. If you want it to come out in a custom format, you got to choose multi-select and then hit save. So when we do that, the next time I generate that template, that document using template number 1, I just want to make sure the items are in this one that I chose. Yes, okay. So I'm going to regenerate that document. We should see a new column at the end for sizes. And I think only on one line item I chose the sizes, but you're going to see how it looks. It's a bulleted list. Now, it looks terrible here because I didn't size it properly. So I need to go back into the configurator. And I'm probably going to have to take a little, and this is one thing that Mike alluded to too, is obviously you have to kind of strategically place some of these descriptions and, you know, some of these widths. Because since I just added one at the end, I might want to take some from the description so that I can increase the size of this one while still not killing my description field, but allowing some space for my other new column. So go back in here, generate the document. And now you can see, so text multi-select will come out in bulleted format if you choose multi-text in the configurator. If you don't, it's just going to come out in, I think it's semicolon separated text. So it would be small, semicolon, large, semicolon, extra large. So changing it to multi-select will give you this format. And we don't offer any other options, so we'll always do bulleted list like that. So that's what you'll see for the multi-select. And last but not least, I wanted to show some images. So I have a template that shows images. I think it's the, let me just pull this one up here. There's all my line items with images. Okay, this guy right here. So I have a template that uses images, uses my images, template 3. So it's going to create the document to show you the images. Okay, so basically I have an image that's in a standard file attachment field on this line item. So I just uploaded the file, and that's what this shows here. Now, I took that same file attachment field, I created a formula-rich text field, and I surrounded it with a little HTML. So I said, all right, point to, show an image, point to the field that has the file attachment, which is file attachment field 26, and just surround it with a div tag. Now notice there's no sizing parameters in here. We don't do well with sizing parameters inside of HTML tags. So if we see the size tags, you might see an HTML error. So you got to remove the sizing there. How we really size it is based on the pixel width of the column. So in this case, I think I chose 100 as the pixel width for this column. So that's why you see that this is a little bit bigger than this. This is the actual file attachment field. This is the formula rich text field that points to the file attachment field. But since I changed the column width to be 100, file is a little bit bigger. So that's two options for images, is you can pull it directly from the file attachment field, or you can use a rich text field to point to it and just show it in a little different way. Now, there's one other thing that I don't think too many people know about, and I want to show this option here. So let's say you wanted to show a caption above and below this image. You can do that in a rich text field like this. All I did was I surrounded the same code down here. I added a header 3 and I added a header 4, and I put some text in there. I'm just going to save this. I'm going to regenerate that. I'll talk more about that in a minute as well. Now when I generate that document, instead of it just showing the image, it's showing some text above and it's showing some text below. We introduced that because we had customers that were basically creating some catalogs. They had a wardrobe catalog and they wanted to show a caption above and below the image that they were included. We weren't really sure how to really pull that off. So if you notice, I'm going to pull this over a little bit here. This is some text is surrounded by header 3. So we know that if we see header 3, we're going to take the text between the start of the header 3 and the end of header 3, and we're going to put it above the image. And you'll see header 4 here. And we're going to take the text between header 4 and the close of header 4, and we're going to put it at the bottom. So that's why you see this. There's the top, and there's the bottom. So that's just a little bit more advanced functionality on some of our image processing. I think I covered everything I wanted to cover. Anything, I know I would go fast here. I wanted to try to jam as much in as I could. So please, if anything is confusing, if you have any questions, feel free to jump in.
Mike did put in a good question. Is the header code somewhere as an example? So do you have this copyable somewhere?
It's in the help site. Let's see. I believe when you go to the formula URL parameters, I think it might be in including embedded reports. If it's not here, then it's going to be, let's see here. It's probably in including images then. Including images. There you go. Including images, advanced subtable images, very similar to what I showed you with the juicy guy. Here's it's actually the same exact example. So here's the code. So you would include this inside of a formula rich text field. And the main thing you're going to want to change is going to be obviously the text and the link to, this is the file attachment field ID. So on my table, in this example, the file attachment field is number 21. So this formula says go get the file that's stored in file attachment field 21 for the current record that you're on, and include it as an image and incorporate it inside of here. Now, one more thing I want to point out in that. On the subtable configurator itself, you have to choose it as an image, even though it's rich text. You don't want to choose that as HTML, otherwise it's not going to show the image. So if I go back to the images, let me pull that up. So I'm pulling up that subtable config, and if I go to the subtable field, you can see this is the field. I changed it to image. You don't want to choose HTML text. So whenever you're showing images and subtables, you have to choose the image type. Like even this is a file attachment field, but I changed it to image. This tells Exact Forms Plus, hey, I want to download a file and show it as an image, because that's kind of what we have to do, is we have to download the file from Quickbase in order to convert it to an image.
I think that just about covers it, Keith. So at this point now, we're wrapping up to the hour point. Keith, you did an excellent job of explaining just about everything about the configurator between this session and the last.
Do I get a raise, Matt?
That's up to you. But at this point, if anyone has any questions before we wrap up, we'd be happy to answer them. If not, I think we're going to move forward to next week's session. Topic, I believe, is TBA. All right, I think that just about wraps it up. So just as a reminder, there's a survey at the end there. If you have any questions or things you want us to talk about, topics for the future, any ideas, please include that. And thank you all very much for joining us.